first thing we say is this isn't going to help you save your church, but it might save your soul. I don't know. It will accomplish so many things. And your church will probably not look like it used to look. And that's okay. That's okay.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Rural Renewal Podcast. You're in luck this week because we have Kathleen with us. Are you feeling better? That's the first question. 2 weeks ago, or when we recorded this, it was just me. Are you feeling better?
I'm feeling significantly better, not 100%, but significantly better. I couldn't even talk. My throat hurt so bad. So I was like, I don't think recording anything with Chris.
Yeah, it was kind of a rough week at the house. Kathleen it was like you were really out of commission for like 2, 3, 4 days. I mean, it was pretty bad. And then even around that time, we've had this long lasting cold. Y'all really want to hear the medical update from us, I'm sure. But we've had this long lasting cold in our family. I still have a little bit of it. It just seems to linger and linger. But the first bit of it for Kathleen was bad, and she's definitely well on the mend. So it's good to have you back. And I'm sure everybody listening to the podcast is excited to have you back. So today, what are we going to talk about a little bit today, Kathleen, in terms of rural ministry? Or this really applies to maybe all of ministry.
So when you all are listening to this, it will be the day after Easter. But we're in the midst of Holy Week, right now. And, we have some traditions in our family with our kids, and we know that they're PKs, and we know that sometimes they get roped into stuff that might not be something that other kids get roped into. So we try to make it special for them. And so one of the things we've started doing, I think it was probably 5 or 6 years ago, we had a Good Friday service. We do combined services with the other church in town. And we had a Good Friday service at their church. And the Good Friday service is very quiet. And we got to the end, and our kids had been really good, like really, really good. And so I said to Chris, I was like, we should get some ice cream for after church today. And Chris is like, that's a great idea. So it kind of became a tradition.
Yeah. So when we go to particularly when we go to the other church in town for services during Holy Week, they usually get ice cream now afterwards. It was the first year we did it particularly. It somewhat depends. This is the Holy Week services in our town. Kind of the traditional Holy Week, Monday, Thursday service, Good Friday services that we've had are not overly well attended by either church, but we continue to do them. I actually have found them sometimes to be some of the more meaningful spiritual experiences. And there is real beauty in them, but they're not overly well attended. In this particular year, it's a Good Friday service. It's a somber service. And our kids at the time were probably, this is 5 years ago. So our oldest, she's 15 now. She might have been 10 at the time. So they might have been like 10, 8, and 4. Yeah, that would be correct. Something like that. And they were just, and it was very quiet. And there was, particularly, we had low turnout from our church for that service that year for whatever reason. And so I think they weren't even really sitting with people that would have been kind of, there to kind of help them navigate the service. And the three of them were just very quiet in their pew by themselves. And I was kind of floored at the end of it, how well they did, because we participate in the service obviously quite a bit, both of us. And so we're not even sitting with them most of the service, and they did well. It's not a very long service, but they did great. And so, so ice cream became a thing that we often do after our services during Holy Week, which is kind of odd, right? Ice cream is a weird way to end a Good Friday service. But I think for us, we have found, for us as parents, and I guess we have found it's important to find ways to have our kids just to find ways to celebrate with our kids. Oftentimes, when we're doing celebrating kind of stuff, mom and dad are busy. So Easter week is obviously, Holy Week is a very busy week for us. And whereas, so it limits how much of the kind of like surprise kind of stuff we can do for them. So we try to find little stuff like that. Same thing for Christmas. We find ways outside of the kind of normal way to celebrate with them. Obviously, Christmas Day is kind of usually, depending on the time of the week, is not overly busy, but the rest of that week tends to be very busy. So yeah, I think just one of the things you do. Yeah,
well,
go ahead,
and I was going to say today the other pastor had asked if our older two could read. And so I texted our oldest and I was like, can you read? And she said, yes, but I'm expecting ice cream. And so it's definitely a thing. She told one of her teachers last year is PK, and she told her teacher about it. And her teacher's like, oh, I'm telling my parents about this. We need to have ice cream. And I'm like, she's in her 20s and wants to get ice cream after a Good Friday. But I think it's sometimes good for our kids to have something to look forward to. That's special to them. And so I think you're right. I think we have found little things over the years that works for our family.
And I mean, I think that you can extend this to some extent to what churches, smaller churches, rural churches do in general. One of the things I loved, I did not grow up, my parents are not pastors. They were very involved in the church I grew up in. I grew up and I was often at a lot of things, perhaps that as a 10 or 12 or 15-year-old seemed like they weren't necessarily always designed for me. But I feel like my church growing up did a good job of finding ways for it to feel meaningful for me. One of the things my parents always did a great job of with me was my mom was always in charge of the sunrise breakfast for their Easter sunrise service. The church I grew up in has like this beautiful view looking, and if you look east over it overlooks a lake and mountains. It was a beautiful spot to have a sunrise service. So we also had a lot of people come for sunrise, and they did a big breakfast afterwards, and my mom was in charge of it basically the entire time I grew up and for many years afterwards.
I think she finally has gotten
I think she's like second in charge now. So it's anyway. And so like for other and they did like a cooked. It was a lot of times like scrambled eggs and sometimes pancakes. So it was like a big production and you had to get there. It was always like some crazy 4:00 in the morning. We were trying to get to church, and my parents somehow made it like an adventure and fun. And yeah, I think we want to kind of leave space for wonder in kids' lives. And ice cream is like a ridiculous thing, right? Like you're not really building wonder, but like where it feels like something special in the midst of like, obviously we're going to a Good Friday service. We're thinking about what it means that Jesus would die for our sins. Yeah. So this is just my encouragement, whether you're a pastor and you have kiddos or whether you're trying to encourage people to think at your church about like how they could have their kids who may not necessarily feel like a service is designed for them during Holy Week. Some of the ways that you can just try to make sure that there's a sense of wonder and something kind of fun built into it. And, so don't be above bribing with ice cream, I would say at times, would be my encouragement to other pastors.
I think it's always a good thing for our kids to look forward to things, especially stuff that their friends might not be at, or a lot of people that they know are at.
Yeah, when we say that the services really are not overly well attended, but our Holy Week services, that's particularly true for the demographic under 50. So
yes,
that is true. of which our kids are obviously part. So, yeah. Anyway, it's been fun. Find ways to have fun in serving. It's made it makes a good space in the week for us to remember to focus on our kids some during Holy Week when obviously things get hectic as well. So, but we're here also we have a couple interviews from the Baptist General Association of Virginia annual meeting. Again, I know we've been doing a bunch of these. We have interviews with other people scheduled afterwards. So if you're like, wow, this has been fun, but we're hearing a lot of stories from people from Virginia, we get it. But we had all these recorded and they were really cool interviews. So I think today we have a couple of really awesome interviews. So Kathleen, you're going to introduce an interview that you did. Who did you interview? And you tell us a little bit about.
Yeah, I interviewed Heather Jallad, who actually doesn't live in Virginia. She lives in Georgia. She's on the Fresh Expressions team. And so she talks a lot about fresh expressions, and especially in a rural context, how they can be are unique in a rural context, because we have so much strong relationships already built in, so it makes it easier to start a fresh expression, and how you can they're often done around dinner tables or in barns or other places that are kind of unique to the rural context. And it was a really good conversation that I had with her. And Chris, you talked to Tony and Theresa.
Yes, and actually, you participated in that conversation as well. But
yes.
the conversation with them was really great. They are at a church called Vitalize Church. It's in Virginia. And one of the things that was nice about talking to the two of them, one, Theresa got to share a little bit of her story of how God kind of cried out to her in the midst of her life and drew her in, which I think was amazing. And then also how God has called both of them to pastor in this place, and the kind of ways that their church thinks about how they can reach out in creative ways and participate in wider community events, and in a way that their church can kind of just be part of their community and connect with people in their community. So really good interview, and I think they the kind of thing that hopefully will stir some of the creative juices in your church of ways that things you might be able to connect with, community events, things like that. And so, yeah, I think the interview was well worth listening to. It was a fun time.
We are back on the podcast with Heather Jallad, and Heather is on the Fresh Expressions team. Heather, tell us what you do for Fresh Expressions.
I am a trainer, a mission strategist, the associate director of training. So one of the primary things I do, I get to host the Fresh Expressions podcast. And I also lead our Pioneer cohort, which we have in two parts, or two semesters, you could say. The 01 part being the first part of the Fresh Expressions journey, which starts in the fall every year. And then the 02 part, which is the second part of the Fresh Expressions journey, which starts in the spring every year.
Okay. So we've talked a little bit about Fresh Expressions on this podcast, but can you just give us an overview of what Fresh Expressions is?
In the world is a fresh expression? Our working definition for a fresh expression is a form of church that is created primarily for people that are not yet a part of the church. And I always just highlight boldface the created primarily for people that are not yet a part of the church, because I think if we lose that in our definition, then we kind of end up creating things that we assume people want, or things that are convenient or comfortable for us, and not necessarily for the people that aren't a part of the church.
No, that totally makes sense. So can you tell me maybe an example of a fresh expression, especially in a rural context? Because I think that's the big thing for rural small churches. Like, how can I make this work for my context?
Yeah. So, I think so I'm in North Georgia. I live in North Georgia. And so we do have a number of rural contexts and rural churches. And one that comes to mind for me is a church that started a table-centered gathering, really in a more rural area, small town, very far removed from any large metro areas or anything like that, and a very large underserved population, food desert to some degree. And this particular pastor was able to pull a number of different, really a nonprofit organization, as well as members of his church. Again, I think they had 10 members of this church, 15 members, and some a local resident, their person of peace in that community, pulled together to start a table-centered church. And I want to say that his very first, and unfortunately he started this, I think, literally the week before the pandemic, but he ended up having 35 people at his dinner church. Yeah, his dinner church, because he was literally walking this community and inviting people to come out for dinner. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. So one of the terms that Fresh Expressions uses is blended ecology. Can you tell us what that is?
Yeah. Well, blended ecology is really, I think it really honors and highly values the inherited church, what we call church, while also seeing the opportunity to reach into our community and form church where people already are. So, in a rural context, it might be, it's really significant to look at the rhythms and the seasons. I know one of the folks that's in the Pioneer cohort right now is in Idaho in a very rural context. And he tells me that there's certain seasons of the year that he does not see people because it's harvest season, or it's planting season or whatever. So it's significant to be able to understand the rhythms of, the people that it is that you're looking to form community with. So meeting people where they are and forming community and around the person and work of Jesus there, while also honoring the traditions and the gifts of the inherited church. And both of those not operating in silos, but the mutuality and the gifts that one has to offer the other. And so the disciples, the body of Christ within the inherited church, really offering those gifts to the fresh expression of church, and vice versa, seeing that there are many gifts that this fresh expression has to offer the inherited church. I think that one of the gifts that I've seen again and again in these fresh expressions and what they bring back to the inherited church is it really does help move us out of our comfort zones. It helps us really kind of rethink maybe some of the things that we have become really static in or so convinced of, or, again, some of our comfort zones. And I think it pushes us to really meet people where they are, much like Jesus did, and better understand how I think it's been said that a gospel that is not contextualized isn't the gospel. Jesus came in flesh and blood, and I think that's really significant to who we are as followers of Jesus. And so there's a mutuality between the inherited church and the fresh expression of church, and that's where the blended ecology begins to take place.
Yeah, and I think when I first learned about fresh expressions, that's what drew me in, because there's so many things out there that are saying like you need to change your inherited church, your traditional church, and what you're doing is not not reaching people, not you need to get with the times or something like that.
Yeah.
But what I love about fresh expressions is they're not like, we need to change everything about your church. It's like, we love your your church is valuable. Your church is doing what it should be doing. However, it's not going to reach everybody in your community. And so what are some ways that you can reach those people in your community who might not ever come into your church? And so it shifts your mindset on how you're reaching those people, and I love that. It's beautiful.
One of the things that I always remind folks whenever I'm doing any kind of training or speaking in front of people is like, we're sitting here right now because we are products of the inherited church.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
For the most part, the people that are sitting in the room are products of the inherited church. And so we're not saying, hey, we need to do away with that at all, right? Yeah. Like we are products of that, and that we have these gifts to offer the community that more and more the landscape of our community, of our world, of our our country, our culture is changing, and the inherited church really for the most part is still built for the 1950s really, really well. And the rhythms of life that existed then, right? Yeah. And we live in a world that's 24/7, and even if folks do want to be a part of a worshiping community, and sometimes in some places that is there's just an inability to be a part of a worshiping community because frankly people do have to work on Sundays in a lot of places.
For sure. Yeah. And so like in our context, in the winter it's hard for a lot of people to get to church on Sunday mornings because they have to work at the ski resorts or service industry type jobs, and the weekends are when they're on. And so you can't really tell a whole group of people, oh, you have to make this, you have to be here on Sunday mornings. Like, how can we be accessible to them at other times, I think is.
Yeah, and I've also heard, I mean, I am guilty of this, young in my own faith that, I mean, when my kids were younger, I mean, they're much older now, but when my kids were younger, I might have been a little bit judgmental for the people that did not come to church on Sunday because their kids were in sports or doing whatever. And I'm like, why aren't you here? And we could take that mindset and be like, you can reorganize your priorities and do,
right.
But I don't think that's what Jesus would have us do. I don't think that's what Jesus would have us do. I think Jesus would say, you need to go to them. I mean, I think that, if we model our lives after the example of Jesus, I mean, he gave every right, every power, everything, and emptied himself of everything for us, and that we should do the same. And so rather than say, you should come to us, I think it's figuring out how we can go out to the ball field, or we can go out to, my goodness, the parking lot where all of the parents are sitting in their cars by themselves while the kids are in karate class. Like, what could we possibly do there?
Oh, the other day, so our oldest is in high school, and the bus stop is at the plaza, and so we have to bring her there. It's about a 5-minute drive, so it's not that bad. But there's like, it's a big bus stop, like 20, 30 kids get on this bus stop, and I look around and there's so many parents, and I'm like, the other day I looked around and I'm like, oh man, like,
party at the bus stop.
You could do something with this. And there's like a record shop in the plaza, and they serve coffee. They're not open that early, but I'm like, there's even a place that you could, so I like, those are the types of things, like going where they are. And I even had a conversation with a parent, and we were like, oh, I wish they had coffee in the morning, because then, even in one day a week. So these are the things, these are the things that we can do to connect with other people, and that's pretty low hanging fruit. They're already there in the morning.
Sometimes it's, it's where people already are gathering. Sometimes it's an affinity that you share.
Oh, for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's a season of life, right? You're a parent of young children. And so you're at the bus stop, or your kids all are in karate classes, or you love a great cup of coffee, or you love to run 5Ks, or whatever the case may be, or you go to the gym, or, whatever the case may be. But it's something that you love, or you're passionate about, or is a part of, the everyday rhythms of your life. It's not something outside of the scope of what you are already doing. And I think that is one of the beautiful things about Fresh Expressions, because if there's one thing that I know for sure, is when we do talk to folks, when we do our training, it's like, I cannot do one more thing. Like, I'm exhausted already. And we're not suggesting that you do. It's like, how do you look at what you are already doing, the rhythms of the life you already have, and look at it with greater intention as how am I intentionally a disciple of Jesus Christ in this place?
Yeah.
And how is Jesus inviting me to form community in this place, so that I might share my faith and build community around the person and work of Jesus here.
Yeah. And I think that is really important, because I think so many of us just feel overwhelmed with life anyway. And we're like, how can we fit something else in, even if we have that desire to share the love of Jesus with our community? I know that things in my life that I love to do, like skiing and baking bread and those kind of things. Those are the things that I have tried to create Fresh Expressions around, because these are things that I'm already doing. And it takes a little extra time, but it's something that I'm passionate about. And so it's an easy way to connect with people. Because if we're just about come to us all the time, I don't think that some people are not going to come to us. And they want a relationship.
They want relationship. That's what it's all about. It's all about relationships. It's all about relationships. That's why God sent Jesus.
Exactly.
That's why Jesus came, right?
Yeah.
It's all about relationships.
Yeah.
So, so those places where we can form relationships, deepen relationships. That's what it's all about. And, you know, I mean, I think about the season of my life that I am in. I mean, just sign me up for a book club. That's where it's going to happen, you know? My newest idea or thought about Fresh Expressions is I'm an empty nester now.
Okay.
But I do love to cook. So, and I do like to eat with people.
Okay.
So my new thing is empty nest, full table.
Oh, I like that. I like that.
You can grab that if you want it.
Well,
You know,
even like even if someone invited me over and I didn't have to think about food,
yeah,
like even just that invitation, like like a week ago we had town meeting, or not town meeting, we were voting, and all the election like the poll workers and stuff, they just brought in tons of food, like baked ziti salads and stuff, and they had tons of leftovers, tons of them. And we live next to the town hall, so they were using our fridge afterwards to put all the leftovers. And then the next day I'm like, are you gonna pick?
you're like, please forget your leftovers.
And they were like, oh, we don't need them, you can have them. Oh my goodness, that was such a gift that week. I didn't have to think about like 3 meals. And so anytime, like if you love to make food and want to include other people, like what a gift that is to the people, like, and then they can show up and have time, relationship time together.
That's right.
So
there's something magic that happens at a table anyway. We know that.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Jesus knew that too.
I know. So I think that is really helpful. Helpful to think about, like, how can we fit this into our already busy lives, and be more intentional in outside of church on Sunday morning.
Yeah. I think one of the questions we often, or one of the approaches or the mindsets that people come to us with is, how is this going to help save my church? Which is, I think, understandable to some degree when we see the decline in the inherited church.
Yes.
And unfortunately, if we come at this with that mindset, I mean, the first thing we say is, this isn't going to help you save your church.
Yeah.
But it might save your soul. I don't know. It might save your soul.
Yeah.
I do think it will deepen the discipleship within your church. It will bring disciples to life within your church. It will reconnect you with your community in a way that maybe you haven't been connected in a long time. It will facilitate your church reflecting your community in a way that maybe it hasn't in a long time. It will accomplish so many things. And your church will probably not look like it used to look. And I think that, and that's okay. That's okay. I think those are all really good things. I think another concern that some people share is like, is this sustainable?
Yes.
And I think the way, what I would coach people to think through in sustainability is not so much financially, because this is low cost, right? It's around my passions and the things that I love to do. And we're not talking about like hundreds of thousands of dollars in church planting money or anything like that, or buildings or anything like that. Is like building teams. I think that's really, really important. Like, don't try to do this on your own. Like, find a friend and do it with them. While not everybody is a pioneer or somebody that is built to start something, I do think there are a lot of people that are willing to come along with you. So some of us that have that entrepreneurial pioneering energy that are like, let's go, oftentimes are like those solo heroic leaders, and we're like, stop it, like find somebody to go with you. And I do think that honestly facilitates it being more sustainable.
Yes.
Because when you do have that pioneering energy, what I do know from myself and from others is that once things kind of like even out and become more routine and kind of find their own rhythm, that you get bored. Yeah. And you're like ready to go start something else. And frankly, that's a gift to the church. That's the multiplication, I think, that the Spirit expects, right? Yeah. And so I think that if we have those teammates that have come along with us, once you hit that place of like rhythm and kind of I don't want to say maintenance mode, but just predictability. those folks are willing to take over.
Yeah.
And then you can be released to go take all your entrepreneurial excitement and energy to start something else.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, that's sustainability.
Yeah. And I think also one thing that I love about Fresh Expressions is it could be seasonal.
Absolutely.
It doesn't have to be year round every Tuesday afternoon at 3 p.m.
That's right.
We can have a different rhythm than we do for Sunday morning worship. And so sometimes that helps us to not get burnt out. If we have a start date and an end date, and we can keep in contact with those people, but like running club in Vermont can't happen year round, right? Like,
no, thank you. Yeah.
Skiing on the slopes only happens a certain, a few months a year. And so I think that's okay. Harvest season.
Yeah.
You're probably not going to get a lot of people to, we don't have harvest season where I live, but that's like a every day, multiple hours a day. You don't have any time for anything besides harvest. So,
finding ways to keep those relationships going, whether you're meeting or not, I think is probably the most important thing. But also, using the language of experimentation, I think is important too. Because, again, in our inherited forms of church, like we start things and we're like, oh my gosh, I have to keep doing this till Jesus comes back, right? And so you're like, oh, if I make a commitment to this, like, oh, this is it. Yeah. Yeah. And we don't think that way in Fresh Expressions. Like we do like, let's try this for 3 months. Let's try this for 90 days and see what we learn.
Yeah.
See what we learn about our community, see what we learn about ourselves, see what we learn about God.
Well, and it's less stress that way, right? Like, it kind of gives us permission to fail.
Absolutely.
Sometimes we,
I don't even like fail. I don't like the word fail.
Learn, permission to learn. Because sometimes we were like, if this many people show up, then we're successful. And that's not the case. Sometimes, we've tried a bunch of things that have flopped, and that's okay. And giving ourselves permission to kind of try new things, even if we know that they might not succeed, is, I think, healthy. Because something might stick.
That's right.
Or we might say, oh, well, Tuesday night doesn't work for people, so we need to change it up next season, or something like that.
Or maybe, a lot of times when we're going through the pioneer cohort, we talk about the first part of the Fresh Expressions journey being, listening, but that doesn't stop when you move to loving and when you move to building community, that you continue to listen, and that you continue to adjust and adapt along the way. And that makes the Fresh Expression of church far more contextual, right? And that you're inviting the people that you're building community with into shaping whatever this expression of church is. And that requires of us continuing to listen and continuing to lean in and frankly give that power away, if you will. That there is much more of a decentralized shared leadership in that community that's forming there. And so that's ongoing listening and ongoing learning together. In how that church is taking shape. So, I mean, it's a whole different ball game than maybe some of our default settings.
Yeah, for sure. So this has been a great conversation. Some people might be like, I want to know more. How can they know more or get plugged in, or they just, this was just a taste of what Fresh Expressions is all about. So tell us what they can do.
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of different ways that you can kind of learn more about Fresh Expressions or bring this to your church. You can check us out at freshexpressions.com. I know one of the ways that I have introduced this in a number of different churches is just starting with Becoming Church, Luke Edwards' book, Becoming Church, and maybe doing just like a book study and having conversations about it. I know from being a part of the inherited church, like the more you talk about stuff, like the more people become comfortable with it and accustomed to it, and then potentially, join in with one of the pioneer cohorts or bring one of the vision days to your local region so that more people can kind of get on board with what this movement is all about.
Well, and the cohorts are online.
Yes.
So you don't have to travel.
That's right. The Pioneer cohort is awesome because, you can get a whole team of people into the Pioneer cohort.
Yeah.
Same thing with coaching. We do team coaching.
Okay.
As well as individual coaching. So, I mean, we do custom suited things for your particular church, if that's something that you're looking for. So
no, that's really helpful. So we'll put in the show notes all the things.
All the things.
So thank you so much, Heather, for sitting down and talking with me.
It's easy to talk podcast host to podcast.
I know, right?
We could probably talk for hours.
We probably could.
Thanks, Kathleen.
Thank you.
All right, we are still here at the BGAV meeting. We're on our second afternoon. We've had a chance to talk to a lot of people. We're really excited. We just barely met Tony and Terry here this afternoon, and we want to hear a little bit. You have Tony church planted, and Terry has come alongside and a little bit after the fact at a church plant. So first of all, just tell us a little bit about that process, what it was like in a rural context.
What was it like in a rural context? We're in a rural community, but we sit right on a lake, so there's a resort there. So it's kind of a mixture of both. We knew that I was supposed to plant a church. Didn't understand it all, but knew I was supposed to plant a church. Didn't know what that meant. Didn't know the process. Knew nothing about it. So I started investigating. Actually, the idea of planting a church came earlier on when I was on staff at another church, and I went to the pastor and said, "Hey, I think God's wanting our church to plant a church." And he was like, "Why would we do that?" And then I tried to explain it to him, and then he said, "You can present your idea to our deacons." So I sat down with the deacons, explained to them, and they were like, "Why would we do that? That's competition." I was like, "I don't think you're catching the vision here." So having a great desire to see other people come to know Jesus Christ. Evangelism was on my heart. I didn't want to plant a church, but I felt like it was something we should be doing after hearing this vision from other people. And then through the process, God affirmed it was me. I was supposed to leave and plant a church. So I left that church and began the process of planting. And I was praying to God, send me anywhere you want to send me. I'll go anywhere. Hawaii would be great. Anywhere you want me to go. I got the conviction that I was supposed to plant right where I was. So we're in Franklin County, Virginia, which is the moonshine capital of the world. I mean, it's very rural in that area. Other than the lake, it was all farm. Actually, the lake was all farmland at one point, and then the lake grew up around it. And the people have moved there, so it's really changed over the years. But what was it like? I really don't know. It was new to me. But we enjoyed connecting with people and trying to find. Our goal was to reach unchurched people. That was our desire, because we see so many churches full of church people. For the first year, I think everybody we got was unchurched. It was a blessing because nobody came in and said that's not the way you're supposed to do it.
That's true.
I'd
They
love to hear that story if that was you.
So Terry was a blessing coming in.
Oh yeah, I was very unchurched. I hadn't been to church since I was like 9 years old. Catholic church in New York with my Italian Catholic grandmother. So I stayed like really far away from God because I didn't think He approved of me. I didn't know that He was like the loving God that He is. And so anyway, I was going through just a personal downfall, I guess, completely. And I had driven my kids back and forth to school, and I drove past this sign on the road, and it said Vitalized Church done different. And then one morning I woke up, and I just heard inside my chest. Get up, get dressed, go down the street. I didn't wake up thinking, if I go to church today, maybe everything will be better. But I know that's the Holy Spirit now beckoning me to go. And I walked through the church I was almost 51 when I walked into the church, and I heard the truth of Jesus Christ, and I heard it presented in such a beautiful, loving way, and it was very easy for me to admit that I was a sinner. And I believed, that Jesus died and rose again, because I learned that when I was little, and I never questioned anything. I just took it as fact. It is fact, but I didn't never question it. And then, and I was told that if I just commit my way to Him instead of doing things my own way, I'll have this new opportunity at life and this new opportunity to have a relationship with God. And so I did that day. Actually, that day, and everything changed. But I didn't tell Pastor for 3 weeks.
That seems like a very you fit well in a rural context, right? You don't hear about stuff till
Well, yeah, I would see him he said at the end of at the end of the service, if anybody, felt anything or, accepted Jesus, just let me know. And then he would stand at the door, when people were leaving. I'm like, I'm not talking to anybody. So I left. I came back the second week. I left. Came back the third week. I left. And then I drove down the street to the top of my driveway. And I just heard, wow, how can you just everything changed. How could you not just tell this man that something that he said helped that change? So I came back and he was standing at the door. And I think he opened the door for me and I stuck my hand in all crying. I was like, hi, my name's Darian. I'm sorry I always leave like this, but I heard you. And that was it. And then, I don't know. Yeah, so things. And I've not left since then. And it's the most beautiful thing I've ever experienced.
So, what about the community there? Besides an overwhelming work of the Holy Spirit, which that definitely sounds like it was. What about the community when you walked in? I mean, that's going to be intimidating. You came from a very different church tradition. What church tradition you had, and and so you had. I can't imagine. I don't know what your expectations were when you walked in. Maybe you didn't have any.
It was dark, and the music was really loud. So I hid in the back because I've been crying now for like a couple of weeks, and I just stayed in the back. And then the music was done, and the lights came up, and this man walked onto the stage, and he said, "Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Life Church. My name is Pastor Tony Gray." And I remember the first thing I thought was, well, he doesn't scare me, because here he is in blue jeans and a t-shirt, and I remember all that scariness, and so that was like my first breath of, and they started a new series that week. They were starting it. It was called Storms in Your Life and Storms in the Bible, and there I was.
Praise God. Well, we could listen to stories of people coming to Jesus again and again, right? I mean, this is why God. We do this because Jesus calls us to do it. But man, the joy you get from it is hearing these kind of stories. So, thank you so much. That is really awesome, Terry. We appreciate it. What was I going to ask? I had a question.
Sure. So
Kathleen's got a question. Thank you.
Tell us what it's like doing ministry in a resort town. We're in a ski resort, but you're a lake resort, which is different. So tell us a little bit about that.
I have really avoided the resort part of it. I'm not sure why.
Well, you know what?
We have, when I was early on, I was getting a lot of coaching about how to connect with those people that are vacationing and other things. And my calling wasn't really to connect with those people who come in to visit for a weekend. I was called to the people who were living there. And so I ignored a lot of that. We did recognize, though, that there were people and gatherings and things going on. So our desire as a church was not to be at the building. We want to be out where the people were. So when people were there, we were wanting to be there. And so when festivals happen or events happen around the lake, we would always be there. And one of the things that churches, I'd been in that area for a while, churches that avoided was the wine festival. They have a wine festival there. It's the most attended thing for the rural area that is. It brings in 25,000 people to one event. And we asked the question early on as we were starting the church, where would Jesus be if he was going to be here? My guess was he probably wouldn't be hanging out at our church on Sunday morning. He's going to be at other places where the people are. And we had a passion to be where the people were at this event. Yep. And so we went to the people organized events and said, hey, we would love to be a part of the wine festival. And their question was, why? Why do you want to be here? And they wouldn't let us come. They had no desire to have a church involved. They were concerned, I guess, we had ulterior motives, which I guess we did. We want to love people with the love of Christ, however we can love them. And so we fought that process for a couple of years and said, well, if you can come up with something to sell, you can come here and set up in a booth and sell things. And we avoided that, and we made contact with Harry, who was at the time selling jewelry. So we snuck in beside her, didn't even get permission, just came in beside her to experience the event, and see what it was like. And then the next year we called her up and said, hey, we really want to come in. We've been asking for years. How can we get involved? And they said, we don't know of anything you can be involved with. I said, we'll pick up your trash. We noticed there's a lot of trash. We'll pick up trash. Can we come in and pick up trash? She said, "You want to do what?" I said, we'll pick up your trash, haul off the garbage, whatever we can do to help out with the event. So they let us in to pick up trash and haul off trash. She saw the love of our people, I guess, and the passion for serving. And the next year, they called us up, said, "Hey, we need somebody to park cars for the 25,000 people who are coming in, and we will pay you $4,000 or whatever it was. I don't even remember the dollar figure. If you'll come in and park cars." I'm like, "We've been begging you to come for free, and now you want to pay us." It's like Jesus was just showing off. He's doing, "Look, we're going to open a door." And I said, "We'll come and do it, but here's the deal. We want to be able to hand something to everybody we park cars for and be able to talk to people." So we were able to do some form of evangelism for everybody who came to this wine festival. And we had shirts printed that on the back of it, "Jesus makes the best wine." And we wanted to use that as a place to get connected to people and ask them, "What does that mean?" And it did. Yeah, it gave us an opportunity to invest in. And again, it's a rural community, but people are coming from everywhere into this little place, and it gave us a chance to connect with those resort area type people. But our heart's desire was those people that were living there, and we seem to connect with them, the lower end as far as the poverty and those kind of things. Those where we connect with, not the people who are wealthy living on the lake. We've had a few of those be a part of our church, but we're really connected with more of the service end, the people who are serving the people who are living.
I was going to say we found that over the years too, and mostly that's because the people who actually live in our community are mostly the people who aren't living up on the mountain. We do have a few of those people who people, often retirees, come to ski communities, but it is often people working at the mountain. And that's sort of a reality when you live in a resort area. You've got to kind of understand like the rhythm of life, because their rhythm of life is a little different than the rhythm of life of what you might expect in a farming community or in an industrial city or something like that. So you just got to, what times of year are they absolutely crazy because they got a million things going on, and when are things slow, and how to build the church into those spaces. Yeah.
We have been blessed with a mixture too. We have some people who live on the lake that'll come, and so it's been a mixture.
And really in many ways that's good, because we're, in a lot of ways, besides those people coming together with one group as the employees and the people being catered to, where they can actually be together and worship. I always, whenever that happens at our church, where you see people who are there, who are kind of, because it's the resort or because they can take advantage of the amenities there, and then also the people who are offering the amenities there, coming together and worshiping together. There's a lot of power in that, and crossing a lot of kind of cultural and obviously economic barriers sometimes there too. Really kind of good to see, and the gospel breaks that kind of stuff down when presented well, in ways that really nothing else does. I mean, nowhere else you're going to go and see that, really. It's pretty cool. We were supposed to ask about your church name. That's right. We were told that you have. So how'd you end up with the church name? And
the name is Vitalize. Which is kind of a strange name. We began praying about this when God was laying on my heart. We were supposed to plant a church. My wife and I prayed about it, and I spent some time searching through the Gospels, going, "Why did Jesus come to earth? What was his purpose here on earth? What did he say?" Because we have an answer. But I was surprised as I started searching. Jesus had a lot of answers for why he was here. It wasn't just one answer, "I come to save the world." That wasn't it. He had a lot of different answers that he shared for why he was here. And one that really resonated with me was when he shared that the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy, but I have come that they might have life and have it to the full, or have it abundantly. And I feel like that's the call that we're called to follow through with. Jesus came that people would have life. We're left here so that people have life. What do we need to do to help people have life? Whatever it is, to make sure that people can experience this life that Jesus came and died for. So that became the vision of our church, that people everywhere will experience life. What do we need to do to make that happen? People everywhere will experience life was our vision. We're set on that. And months into our training and getting things rolling for the church, a lady came to one of our events, and she said, one of our training times, and she said, "Hey, have you ever heard of this word vitalize? It means to give life." And we're like, "Never heard of it before," but we believe that's the name of our church now. It's just a few seconds of hearing it, we knew that was a God thing. We didn't have a name for the church. We were just going whatever God had for us, and it was like, that's it. And so, as far as I know, we're the only vitalized church in the world. But we've accepted a name, and it's been great for us to communicate our vision.
Yeah. I'll praise God for that. Yeah, certainly.
That's great. Well, we appreciate you taking the time to tell us your story about your church, and we're just so grateful for all that you're doing in the kingdom of God.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Rural Renewal Podcast is brought to you by Fresh Expressions and the Ascent Movement. Fresh Expressions is a worldwide movement of everyday missionaries who want to see churches thrive in places we eat, live, work, and play by leveraging the creativity and endurance of the inherited church. The mission of the Ascent movement is to create a thriving, collaborative connection for the church to live out the Great Commission in today's context. One of the initiatives of the movement is the Mustard Seed Initiative. Inspired by the message in the parable of the mustard seed, the Mustard Seed Initiative seeks to empower small churches across North America, enabling them to grow in faith and impact within their communities.
To connect with this podcast, you can email us at podcasts@freshexpressions.com. Rural Renewal Podcast is hosted by Kathleen Blackie and Chris Blackie. It's edited by Joel Limbowen and produced by Kathleen Blackie and Jeanette Statz. Our senior director is Shannon Kaiser. A special thank you to Brad and Joni Perry of Alabaster Grace for the use of their music for our podcast.
If you have learned something or been encouraged by this podcast, please help us spread the word. You can give us a review on Apple Music or Spotify and share this episode on social media.
May God be merciful and bless us. May his face smile with favor on us. May your ways be known throughout the earth, your saving power among people everywhere. May the nations praise you, O God. Yes, may all the nations praise you. Let the whole world sing for joy because you govern the nations with justice and guide the people of the whole world. May the nations praise you, O God. Yes, may all the nations praise you. Then the earth will yield its harvest, and God, our God, will richly bless us. Yes, God will bless us, and people all over the world will fear him. Psalm 67.